Around catching up. Yeah, trying to do a lot of catching up.
Come on up here, Miss Nagorski. Come on up here in the front. Come on up here and visit with us. Come on.
Is everything going?
Sure, sit up here in the front. No, okay, well, that's fine.
Okay. Okay.
What's that, Miss Roth? I suppose, yeah. All righty.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, who said that? I saw it pop up on the screens today. Oh, well. I did not. I did not. I had nothing to do with it. I am just a participant. This is actually.
I would too. I'm sorry, you're working.
I can tell you that. I can tell you this much, that you want to boost attendance. Well, but to be fair, this is my third appearance in 3 days. So my third appearance in 3 days. Yeah, I had the men's club on Tuesday, and I did the teaching kitchen yesterday. Yeah. So this, I am not. No, ma'am. It's paid in full. Don't worry. It's my pleasure to do it. It's no problem.
He's very shy.
I am. As everybody knows, I'm very
I
shy.
just had to drag it out of him.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, we're just gonna have a little chat, talk about things, and
Come on up, Fred.
come on down. I got 4 right here in the front. Hello, Miss Benjamin. How are you? Good to see you again. I'm not cooking today though, so it's a different kind of thing today.
He's cooking all right.
They do, yeah. This one's testing. Getting to know you. Getting to know all about you. Did I what? Oh, you want me to go ahead and start? Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. Oh, no, I already did. Oh, you don't want me to start? Okay, I see what you're saying. We had a conversation recently as we were getting ready for this, and Kate asked me, what other hobbies do I have? And the subject of musical theater came up, and my wife and I do musical theater here in the Bay Area. And a couple of years ago, right when COVID started, we did a show called Spam-A-Lot, which is a Monty Python offshoot. And I was Bedivere, and she was the Lady of the Lake, and we just had a grand time doing that. But it all came from a dare. She was getting ready to start the audition process, and I said, well, wouldn't it be fun if I did it too? I was just joking. I wasn't being serious, because I had done musical theater when I was younger. And she said, well, yeah, come on out and audition. Do it. I dare you. Well, don't dare me, because you know what happened next. I was out there, and my audition song was a song by Tom Lehrer. Some of you in the Bay Area know who Tom Lehrer is. It was Poisoning Pigeons in the Park. And yeah. It was a fun show to do, and we had a grand time doing it. Bill Starr was the director. It was out at the Woodside Community Theater, and we did 5 shows, and we had 5 standing ovations. So I guess everything worked itself out. Anyway, Kate, what are we doing today? I think this is the one that's working right now. I'll turn this one on.
I'm feeling useless. I don't think I'm necessary.
No, you're perfectly useful.
Um, Questions I start out with sound totally boring right now. But I wanted him to sing Getting to Know.
They won't be boring for long.
I I wanted him to sing Getting to Know You. Do it just a
I just did. Getting to know you. Who knows what show that's from, by the way? What show is that from? The King and I. Absolutely. There you go. You get the bonus. Getting to know all about you. Getting to like you. I think those are the words, but I'm making them up. Whenever we forget the words, we just meow, 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 meow.
well, that will be at intermission.
Sure.
Okay, I guess we have to start out with, but this might take a good long time.
Yeah.
What was growing up like? Where did it start? And
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I was born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. My mother was 18 years old and her parents were very strict. And as such, she moved me quickly to Santa Barbara, California. So from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania to Santa Barbara, California was about as far away as she could get from her parents without going to Hawaii, obviously. But I grew up my formative years about a quarter of a mile from the beach, and it was the happiest time of childhood you could imagine. Growing up in tide pools and getting tumbled by waves and playing with your friends on the beach, and it really was obviously a different time, but it was very insightful and teaching me the values of life that I have today, and that is, treat people with respect, and you'll get a lot in return for that, and take care of your family because your family is going to take care of you. Those kind of lessons I learned very, very young. But then my father was working in the electronics industry at the time. He was working for a defense contractor called Raytheon in Santa Barbara and lost his job. This was in 76, 77, something like that. And then we relocated to Texas, where my family really has their roots. And they were Italian immigrants that came from northern and southern Italy, both. They were stonemasons, and they helped to build the Texas state capitol. The way we found that out is Dad did a genealogy study and went to the basement of the Texas state capitol where they had the historical payroll records and found our family name in the payroll records at the Texas state capitol. So that kind of tied everything together. There it is. We were definitely there. But they were in the, as most good Italian families go, we had family in the restaurant industry. We had family in the priesthood. We had family in the liquor industry. So we really had all of our bases covered, I think, is one way to say that, real estate included. But yeah, that was a vigorous and vibrant childhood. It was, I've always been a believer that where we are today, at this place, having this conversation with all of you, is a result of everything that I've done in the past. Everything I've done in the past led me to here. Good, bad, or otherwise, it's all led me to here.
but
Right.
you traveled a lot.
I did travel a lot, but again, all of those things, all of those experiences, all of those influences led me to this spot right here. And I'm always thankful for that. So people say, well, would you do anything different? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm having the time of my life, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, my name is John. I'm immigrated to America when I was 12 and grew up in San Rafael, right across the bridge. And after graduation, went to culinary school. And actually before culinary school, I went to architect. I want to be an architect really bad. I like to work with my hand. I like to draw. I like to design, but I couldn't pass math. That's because it's funny too. I'm Asian, I'm Chinese. I'm supposed to be good at math, but I'm horrible. I could not pass math. So I'm like, what am I gonna do next? I was thinking about becoming a mechanic, but my friend's dad is a mechanic, and he said, don't do it. It's really bad on your health, bad on your lungs, and bad on your brain, the fumes, everything. So I was thinking, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do with my life? My mom every day asks me, says, John, what are you gonna do today? John, what's your plan for the week? John, every day of my life for 2 years since I graduated high school, every day, John, what are you gonna do? John, what are you gonna do? So eventually one day I packed my stuff up, went to culinary school in San Francisco. After graduating San Francisco, I have a loan to pay. So everywhere else you have to work for 3 months for free in order for you to get hired. And then I figured cruise ship, they did this little interview, and then I went on a cruise ship, worked $7 an hour. Basically, we work like 20 hours a day because it's really hard to get on the cruise ship because you have to go through the border control, like all the background check. So after the cruise ship, about 6 months, I got tired of that. I went to Guam. I lived there for about a year and a half. After that, I moved to Oregon. After that, I went to North Carolina, went to South Carolina, and I went to Florida. I went to New York. So just make connections. The chef says, hey, I have a job opening. You want to come? Sure. I grab my 2 luggage and backpack. One luggage is my airbed and my pillow. And then my other luggage is my clothes, and my backpack is my computer. It's funny because when my coworkers come over, come over to drink, hang out, they look around, it's like, wow, yeah, no furniture. I'm like, yeah, it's hard to carry furniture around. They're like, they say, what you should do? You should invest in coming out like air furniture. Like you can blow up like you have air beds, or you can have an air couch. You can have like an air TV stand, something. So, that's kind of a good idea. And then, but long story short, like, Paul says, everything I did and then leads me to here today. And then I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm very happy to be here, to be part of this. So I do appreciate it. Thank you.
I asked John what it felt like to come to a new country when he was 12 years old, thinking, this would be very difficult to me, not speaking the language. And what was your answer that surprised me?
I mean, it's funny, very funny, because I feel like I was in the school. I was going to school like 5th grade, and all of a sudden my grandparents, because my mom came to America when I was 6. So for 3 years, I have no parents. I kind of just, my parents was divorced when I was young. So I was kind of living with my uncles, my grandma, my auntie. I was bouncing around a lot. And one day they said, hey, you're going to America. And I have no idea what America is. And they tell me it's Golden Gate Bridge that is built by gold. I'm like, wow, really? I gotta see this. The bridge built by gold. It's gotta be a rich country, And then the street that my mom lived on is called Butterfield. They tell me it's made out of butter. I'm like, no way, no, you're exaggerating. It's no way. How are you gonna keep the butter from melting? So yeah. So long story short, and then it's also a funny story because I didn't speak any English. I only speak is mango, donkey, and hello. Those are 3 words. And my mom, my grandpa, both are my English teachers. And they want me to learn, but some reason it's always like that. When your parents are teachers, the kids is always the worst student. It's always work out that way, kind of. So when I went to school, and then it's funny because kids, they're mean. They tell me the middle finger is the good finger. The middle finger is the way you say hi in this culture. And then so, obviously I'm like, okay, I'm waving my finger around. And everyone's at school, the principal, everyone's panicking, call my mom in, call my stepdaddy in. They're like, well, I'm sitting there like, what did I do? This is American culture, right? You wave your fingers around saying hello. And then I understand, oh, that's a bad finger. You cannot do that in this country. So, it's funny because, for a while there, I was giving the bus driver, because, the bus driver come pick it up. I'm like, hey, they look at me like, what's wrong with this kid? So, yeah, to answer your question, yeah, that's what it's like when I came here as well. So
You can see he was very shy and had a very difficult adjustment to make. Shall we continue and have him finish? Or yeah, because otherwise we'll be switching. Yeah, and you have a girlfriend?
Yes, currently I'm very lucky to have a girlfriend, and she's kind of just the, how to say that word, like the stone, love of my life. Yeah, she's holding everything together for me, and then she's encouraging me, and then she's she's very nice. I'm very lucky to have her. So yeah.
And how about talking about the various jobs you've had?
Yeah. Sorry, what do you mean?
Huh?
I just been cooking. Oh yeah, various
No,
job.
no, I meant
Oh,
at different
different way.
places, yeah.
Yeah. So before I start cooking, is like I said, I only speak mango, donkey, and hello. And my mom says, "Here, John, I pay you $10. You learn syllables. You learn the past tense, the future tense. You learn how to memorize vocabulary. $10 per word." In 1996, $10 is good money. But for some reason, I just can't sit still. I said, you know what? I'm gonna go get a job. So I look around and then I don't even know why they hired me. I don't know how to fill up job application. I think my buddy helped me out. And then so I got hired at movie theater. So my job was tear tickets. When people come to me, I just look at the tickets and then say, okay, you pay your share and go in. So I started out that way. Eventually, I was like, you know what? I gotta communicate. I got to learn how to speak English. And then so I become a salesman. I went to Champ Sports and I worked at Foot Locker. I worked at Macy's. And then, of course, sometimes people look at me like, wow, my God, this guy doesn't speak English. You have him on the sales floor. You know, there's some nasty people, but I was very lucky to have a manager to that support me, to put me out there, to give it a try. When it comes to cooking is I become a server one day. I was like, you know what? I got to feed my stomach. Clothing is good, because I get discounts, but know about my stomach. I was like, oh no, I should be a server so that way I can eat food, discount with the food. But I was horrible. I could always forget people's butter. I always forget people's drink. People was, what do you order again? Oh, it's horrible. The manager said, you know what? Here, the kitchen needs help. Go back there and help them. So I go back there, start helping. I'm like, hey, I like this. I like this working with your hand. You get to try out different things. So long story short, that's when I went to culinary school. So yeah.
Okay, what else can you tell us? How did you come to TLG?
TLG, I was very fortunate because I was working at Oakland and then as a sous chef, and then I worked my way up one day. I said, this is something my mom did to me. She always asked me, John, what's your goal? What's your plan? And then my mom says, John, you're about to be 40, so you're halfway to dying. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do for the rest of 40 years? Let's assume, my mom said, let's assume you're gonna live to 80. What are you gonna do? I was like, Mom, I don't know. She's like, John, you got to figure out something for your life. What are you going to do? You don't own a house. You don't own anything. Like, you got to do something for your retirement. What are you going to do? So eventually, with this place, I come here a couple of times to help out. And then I was like, you know what? I like this environment. It's way much better than Oakland, obviously. So I was like, I like this. It's a really, nice community. Everyone's nice. Everything's, clean. So, and then I come here help a couple of times. I say, hey, you guys hiring a head chef? They're like, yeah. So, I did my tasting and then they like me. So here I am. And then they tell me I have a director coming, and my director is a formal culinary instructor as well as executive chef. And I'm excited, because this way I have someone to relay with, someone who can help me. So yeah, that's how I got here.
So,
It's my fault. My pleasure.
oh, did you mention that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
So the backstory to all of that was within our company, we believe in promoting from within it wherever possible and wherever it's practical, wherever it makes sense. So David Thornton, the corporate executive chef, came to me and said, we have a sous chef at Piedmont that's really good and has executive chef potential. Do you think that you can help him make the transition into being an executive chef? And making transitions really is something that I've been doing in my life for at least 2 decades, is taking people and helping them transition into what they want to be. Le Cordon Bleu as an institution is based in that. So it really was kind of natural for me. The interesting part of all that was that John came with an energy that was very infectious, and actually we had to rein it in a couple of times. But that's really how managers are born, and that's how executives are created, is by understanding how do we take all of this frenetic energy and harness it into these positive outcomes. And that's what we've been doing. We've been creating a lot of really positive outcomes in our food and beverage operation. Being an instructor at Le Cordon Bleu was one of the high honors I've ever had. I also coached their culinary team for 5 years, their culinary competitions team, and what told me that this was going to be a good fit was when we would get new teams. Every year we'd have a new team because the program was only 15 months in duration. So when you put forward a team every year, you're constantly having new team members. So every year we would have an evaluation, we would have a tryout, and we would have to make snap judgments about whether or not these students that are wanting to be on this team fit the profile. So you became a very quick judge of who can do what and what's the value. So it was really a pretty interesting outcome there, and a huge benefit for TLG, a huge benefit for Morrison, and a huge benefit for you all as well. So I'm really proud of that aspect.
What year was it when you first came here to do just little jobs?
I started here 1 month before he did. So yeah. So we're kind of a package deal. Hard to believe. But I think you came here before me. You came here during that transition period, right?
No, actually, like Paul said, I was here after him because when I come in, actually, when I met him the first time, he looked at me, he's like, hey, go do this, go do that. And I'm like, okay. And then later on, he's like, you're the new chef, huh? You're my new chef. I'm like, yes, I am. I'm a new chef. He's like, okay, come here. Let's talk about this. So it's very fun. Yeah. So yeah, we are. Yeah.
So it sounds like you're good friends as well as
Yeah.
working together.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like, so far for the last 6 months, I've been learning a lot from this guy, and we have our ups and downs. He's kind of like, I don't know, like I look up to him a lot. Like, sometimes I challenge him, my stupidity. And then he just look at me like, not today. He's like, not today. Sometimes I like to, see how far I can go before he's gonna kick me in the butt, kind of, And then, sometimes, I learn my lesson the hard way. But I'm glad to have him. Like he said, he's an instructor. Sometimes there's roadblocks in the kitchen with the new people being trained. I'm getting a headache. He's always, calming me down. He's giving me a new perspective on things. So things I never seen it before, even though I travel around the country for a lot. And then, sometimes, he says things. I'm like, wow, that's very interesting. And then he would teach me about different style of cooking. I was like, wow, I've never seen that before. So yeah, I'm definitely blessed to have him here as my backup to give me ideas and creations.
When I first met you, when you came to see me a few days ago, I asked how to say your name.
Yeah.
And
yeah, my it's right there. It's easy. Yeah, but that's my American name, because I was funny because I was thinking there's a lot of people named John. I was thinking when I come to TLG, I'm gonna name myself Henry. I like that name. Yeah, I should be Henry, but they transfer me. So instead they rehire me, which takes longer. So they just transfer me. So I got to stay with John. So which is fine. And my last name is, in English pronunciation is Cal. Because it's funny, when I was a kid, right, we always play video game. I would kneel down like this or grabbing something. I grew up in San Rafael, like, it's a farm country over there. So my buddies, they always push me over. They'll make a joke like, tip the cow. It's time to tip the cow, They're like, hey, what are you doing tonight? Let's go tip the cow. And then they would come over and push me over for no reason. And, so anyways, my last name is Cao, but yeah, this cow is fine.
I'm glad I didn't call him Cal at the very beginning.
It's fine, yeah.
And by the way, for the record, my time in Texas, I did do cow tipping.
So it is actually a thing. Okay. Yeah, we never did it. We all just talked about it, but none of us are brave enough to go out to the ranch, in Bolinas, do it. But okay.
Okay, you want to pass it back to him then?
So what questions can I answer for you, Kate?
What questions can I ask? I don't think I'll.
John mentioned something that about my management style, and that is that I'm kind of philosophical about the hows and whys of management and why we do the things that we do. And I kind of take it back to this holistic approach of, if you have a clear mind and clear heart, you can't be stopped, right? So when your mind is cloudy, when you can't focus, when you don't have clear direction, it makes achieving an objective very difficult. So one of the things I hope that I'm helping our kitchen with and our tray line staff and front of the house staff is this idea that be positive in your thoughts, be impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And every day your best is going to be different, right? Sometimes your best is way up here and sometimes your best is only here. But if you're doing your best every day, regardless of where you land, you can sleep well at night knowing that you did your best, because tomorrow's another chance to either exceed or come close to those expectations. And it centers back to a philosophy called the Four Agreements. And I was given the book, The Four Agreements, about 10 years ago by a very close friend who apparently thought I needed it. I was going through some personal turmoil and that sort of stuff. And she handed it to me. She said, "Here, read this. I think you may get something out of it." And I said, "What did you get out of it?" And she said, "Not a darn thing." She said, but you seem like the type that's going to get something out of it. So I'd read the book, and every year around Thanksgiving or Christmas, I read it again. I read it every year because our mind gets a little bit fuzzy on the details. And sometimes we feel ourselves kind of veering off that track a little bit. And when we read it again, it kind of recenters me a little bit. And that's very helpful.
I can't help but see here, when I was talking with him about this and he mentioned, I just picked up again the Four Agreements, and this was before I knew anything about him. And so when he talked about it, and we found out we had so much in common, as you know, what I believe about the power of thought and the power of words. So I told him not to let me talk too much like I'm doing now. And that did it. We had an hour of his time. So here again, I'm interrupting, but I can't resist I don't believe in coincidences. I think it just flowed together.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that. You know, when you look at the kitchen setting, you know, we work in a very stressful environment. It's fire, it's knives, it's tempers. It's a very stressful environment sometimes. And occasionally we have to stop and recognize, what is it we're doing here? And it boils down to a very simple mission statement that I've created for the kitchen. And that is, make good food, make people happy. And if we can do those two things every day, that's a heck of a day, isn't it? Making good food and making people happy. If we can do those two things, those two simple things, it seems. But within any mission statement, you have a lot of layers of what that means. So if I could indulge you all in this, make good food is not just make food that's tasty. What we want to do is make good food that's good for your body. It's good for your soul. It makes you feel good. You feel good eating it. It reminds you of a good time in your life. It reminds you of a family event or something like that. It's also good for my staff. It keeps them inspired. It keeps them interested in what we're doing. It's good for the planet. We're buying sustainably. We're wasting as little as possible, so we have the smallest amount of footprint into the landfills. So good food is not just taste good. Good food is holistically thinking about what is good food. And then the other one is make people happy. Make you happy, make my staff happy, make the shareholders happy, make my company happy by performing financially in the right way, make human good happy by staying within budget. So dues increases don't happen because of me. It wasn't because of me, by the way. And those sorts of things. So really making good food and making people happy really is a lot more than just those two things simply. It's a really complex answer that I think about all the time. And everything that we do points to those objectives. Are we making good food? Are we making people happy? If the answer is yes, we're right on track. And if the answer is no, we need to look at it and figure out, how do we get back on track? We pivot quickly. I forget what it was we were doing recently where we had to I think the Sunday brunch was one example where we had to make a quick pivot. But we've had a number of those things. Yesterday during the teaching kitchen, Mrs. Oliphant brought up the salt issue. So you know what? Today I was picking up 2 1-pound containers of Mrs. Dash, and we're eliminating added salt from our menus across the board, and we're going to see what happens as a result of that. Okay. Now that does that get us back to our mission statement? Make good food. Can good food be without added salt? Of course it can. Add more herbs, add more additional flavorings. Can it make people happy? Of course it can. When you think about the quality of your heart health and your body health and all of those things, it makes you happy. It makes your doctors happy because now you're being healthier. It makes us happy because we see the results in you. So it's still making good food and making people happy. It still fits within the same mission statement. So everything we do kind of points back to those things.
And the company you work for has a goal of sustainability.
Sure. Yeah. You know, Earth Day is coming up. It's April 22nd. It's National Earth Day. And it's the day where we take a step back and take a look at how are we respecting our planet? How are we seeing what we're doing from the lens of its impact on the planet? And our company, Morrison Compass Group, as the big brother, has metrics and goals for us to achieve within that. So we're always cognizant of what our carbon footprint is. What is our waste level? Currently, our waste level is right around 2.5% to 3%, which is very low considering we have about $120,000 worth of food that we process through this facility for you all. So,
Pardon me, but does that percent include what we waste?
it doesn't have any impact on what you all waste. I can't control that. But what we do is we track things like our vegetable peelings and, making sure that our vegetable peelings have the smallest possible capacity, fruit and vegetable trim, meat trim, all of that stuff. We have these buckets in the kitchen called waste not buckets. And that's the program that our company uses. We have a tablet in the kitchen where we calculate what is our daily waste. And then that is translated into a dollar figure, and that dollar figure against our total food purchases. And then we come up with our metric to know whether or not we're achieving or coming short or meeting it or anything like that. So we're always watching. We're always paying attention.
They're going to think I programmed you to do this. So you may as well tell about your watch.
Oh, so anyway, I have a huge respect for companies that find a way to be creative with recycling. One day, my wife and I, we were in the kitchen, and I was throwing a plastic container away, and she said, "Don't put it in that container. It goes in the other container. The other receptacle is for recycling." And I said, "Honey, they don't recycle any of this stuff." And she looked at me like I had lobsters coming out of my head. What I meant by that was I read an article about Dow Chemical and Monsanto, the creators of plastics. And when plastics were created at the end of World War II, a byproduct of the petroleum industry during World War II, none of the plastics were designed to be recycled. And they knew that. So now when we see all of these plastic and plastic products that are a fixture of our lives, most of them can't be recycled. But that's why we have to celebrate the ones that do. So there's a company in New York, I think it's in New York State, called Movement Watch Company. And this watch that I'm wearing, I don't know if you can see it, it's a little green watch. It's made of completely recycled, harvested materials from the ocean. The watch band, the case, it's all recycled materials. So when we talk about what can we do, Kate and I were talking a little bit about what can we do holistically to help with the recycling situation. Well, we start with ourselves. We do what we can ourselves to minimize our packaging. When my wife and I go to the grocery store, we have the recyclable or the washable produce bags, as an example. People look at us like we're crazy. Why are we coming in here with a big? Well, I come in with my own shopping bag. Why wouldn't I come in with my own vegetable bags? So those little things are really all I can do. That doesn't mean I stand up on a soapbox and tell everybody what they should be doing. It's just what I do. And maybe somebody sees me do that and they say, "Hey, where'd you get those bags?" I'd like to do that too. We get them right there. And then I've made an impact. I've doubled my impact from there, and so on. And so it's like the butterfly wings, right? And that's all we can do. Yeah.
And now you can see why I spent an hour with him and did half the talking or questioning. Tell us about your wife and how you met her. And
My beautiful wife, Anne-Marie Macry. I was a chef with Urest in the high-rise building downtown San Jose that has we call them the disco lights on top. There's an 18-story building in downtown San Jose by the intersection of 85 and 280 that has the changing lights in the top. And she's a financial analyst with PricewaterhouseCoopers. And I was a chef running the cafe down in the lobby. And during the Earth Day Stop Food Waste, Stop Waste Day, she came down with her own coffee cup to get coffee instead of using the paper cup. And I came to her, I said, wow, thank you for bringing your own coffee cup. Thank you for doing your part to minimize waste. As a matter of fact, we had a program at that cafe where if you brought in your own cup, we gave you free coffee. It's amazing how popular that program became. Everybody in office buildings likes coffee. So we started talking and one thing led to another. And then I found out that she was the singer she sang national anthems at San Jose Sharks games when the Canadian teams would play at the SAP Center, because she knew the French national anthem as well as the American national anthem. So they would contract her to do those games when Vancouver or Toronto or one of those kind of teams Ottawa would come to town. So when I found out she was a singer and she was environmental, well, to me, that was like case closed, right? And she was super cute, and I was a chef, and somehow we found a way to find a lot of common ground. And one of our first dates was on the 19th floor of an 18-story building, which meant we were on the roof watching the fireworks that put on by San Jose Chamber of Commerce. And it was one of our first dates, and
the fireworks started.
And the fireworks started then, absolutely. And we throughout the preceding year after that, I kept warning her. I says, one of these days I'm going to ask you to marry me. One of these days. And she says, yeah, right. Okay, sure. And 6 months, 8 months gone by, 9 months, 10 months gone by. Yeah, sure, whatever. She by the 11th month, she had pretty much given up hope. So July 4th, for the next July 4th, we were up on the roof watching the fireworks. And I was waiting for them to start. They hadn't started yet, but we were up there to see the fireworks, waiting for them to start. They were supposed to start at 8:30, and I'm like a nervous father. Doggone it, start those doggone fireworks, guys. Come on, I got a ring to pull out. Come on. And finally the fireworks started. And when I was so beside myself with nervous that I wound up opening the box upside down. The ring didn't fall out, but it's something that made her gasp a little bit. And of course she said yes, thankfully. That would have been a very embarrassing fireworks for me. But yeah, we've been happy and together ever since. We spent our honeymoon, as many of you know, in Portugal, 2 years after the fact. We had to postpone it, but yeah, we're happy as we can be. She's my favorite sous chef. No offense to our staff, but she's my favorite sous chef. She knew nothing about cooking when I married her, and now she cuts vegetables, according to me, better than I do. So, and I tell her that all the time. That way I don't have to do it. But it's a great relationship. We have a good time. We've got a 17-year-old. She had a 17-year-old son. My kids are much older, 31 and 27, something like that. But we're super happy. Yeah.
Going back to the beginnings, what was the first thing you cooked? I thought that was
Wow.
interesting.
Yeah. So my father was an electrical engineer with Motorola for 35 years. But prior to that, when we lived in Santa Barbara, he was with Raytheon. And one morning, I think I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, he took what I thought were unrelated ingredients, flour and eggs and milk and baking powder and a little vanilla, sugar, and he made pancakes. And I thought it was magic. I didn't, because when you see the ingredients by themselves, it's not pancakes. But once you combine them in the right way, you have something real. And that alchemy was something that fascinated me from a very young age. So I started with that. I started making bread. I was just barely old enough to see over the counter, but I would get up on the stool next to him. And it's funny, one of my favorite pictures of my kids, my younger kids, is a picture of me peeling shrimp at the sink. And my daughter Brittany was about 5 or so, standing on the chair next to me, helping me. And my son Kenneth, who was 1.5, was on the floor trying to get up in the chair, trying to see what we were doing. So to say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, I think that's an apt metaphor for that scenario. They were definitely the apples at my trunk.
What are they doing now?
You know, it's funny. Kenneth, my son Kenneth, he is in the food and beverage industry. Naturally, he is a assistant general manager for a bar in Austin, Texas, and my daughter is a cosmetologist. She's a hair and nail specialist. She's in the artistic arts, as it were, making women beautiful. Some of you, so I can tell most of you, all of you have that effect on each other, making each other beautiful. We're very proud of where our family has been and where it is now.
Where are they distance?
They're both in Austin, Texas. I go visit them as often as I can, as often as they'll tolerate. You know, at that age, oh, dad's coming. Oh, better clean the house. I better, yeah. Usually recently it hasn't happened so much, but there was a time when my daughter would call and she'd say, "Hey, Daddy, how are you?" I'm like, "Really well, Britt. How are you? How much? How much?" I became very philosophical about that question. She would ask for money, but it was never more money than I borrowed from my parents. So really, I think it was just kind of a pay forward kind of thing. So I borrowed it from my parents, and then I'm paying it back to her. And then when she has kids, whenever that happens, then she will too experience that reality of how much. I do it every time. It's fine.
One more thing that I am curious about is, how is your musical talent connected with your cooking talent or your food? Working with food.
Yeah, you know, that's a great question. Chefs, and John will attest to this. When you're a chef, you're always on stage. You're always performing. Cooking is a performance art. It truly is. We solve problems people don't know they have in ways that people don't understand. That's what we do. It is performance art in and of itself. And I get a lot of satisfaction from just visiting with people, just coming out and seeing people and talking with them and listening. I do a lot of listening. I don't know if you all have noticed in the dining room, I do a lot of listening. And I really think that makes us better, because it's in that communication that we can identify areas of improvement, identify areas that we do well. But as always, if it's a great show, it's about the cast. But when the show's not right, it's about the director. Right? Anybody ever experienced that? You can't blame the cast for poor direction. Right?
You have a happy cast.
I feel like I have a pretty happy cast. Yeah, they and the evidence bears that out. You know, you can tell when they're happy as to the quality of the work that they do. Yeah, 100%.
Do you have any other pictures to show?
You know, I wish I had more pictures. I don't, but as they present themselves, I'll be glad to post them up for you all. You'll see them come up in very unusual places. I remember when I first started here, I was walking down the hallway and I was startled by my own picture on the video board. I was like, oh my God, oh no, okay, well, that's fine. I was startled by my own picture.
It wasn't a cartoon.
No, it was actually this one. That was my headshot from theater. But other staff have had the same situation. Like Mo, our new sous chef, one of our new sous chefs was walking down the hall and saw his picture, and he was startled by his own picture. It's funny, we don't expect to see our faces on those screens, but sometimes it happens.
John, has this given you any ideas about what you can add to tell us about yourself?
I mean, at this point, I just want to soak in as much from Paul as possible. And then I'm just like I said earlier, I'm very fortunate to have such a sporting director, because most directors from other places, they don't really know that much about the kitchen operation. They don't know that much about like the action, but they're really good at books. So sometimes it's different to translate from books to actually doing it. So it's doing it, challenges of equipment, of how, you know, good of staff you have. So this is where Paul comes in handy. Like anytime I go give him a problem, and then he always come up with a solution. But lately he's kind of just, hey, why don't you figure this out? You're the chef, you know, do your job. So, you know, I kind of appreciate him, you know, push me. And then sometimes I really get stuck at the roadblock. I'm like, hey, look, I'm really lost. I really don't know where to go. And then, yeah, he will give me a direction. And then, so at this moment, like I said, I just kind of really appreciate him and I want to soak in as much as I can from him. And then I don't know what the future holds for us, but as long as I feel like I learned from him, and then I should be okay. So yeah,
Sounds like you both have the same philosophy.
yeah, and like you know, he's a very very wise man. And then I had a stepdad when I come to America. He worked for San Francisco Chronicle. He was in charge of sales. A lot of things he told me when I was younger, I never listened because I was like, whatever, you know, whatever. You know, as a arrogant teenager, I know it all. I know it. And as time goes, he passed away, and then I started growing older, and then I started traveling around, and then I started learning how to behave myself. I started learning a lot of things, and then that's kind of funny too, because at one point, you know, when I was coming from Oakland to here, I was really lost as far as like as being a person. Like, how am I going to manage my life? How am I going to manage, you know, things like that? And then when I met Paul, and then we always find time. Like he always find time for me because he's always running around busy, and then. Yeah, he always managed to find time to sit down with me for like half an hour and then give me a little pep talk. And then he'll ask me, how am I doing? What's my mindset? And I will vent it to him. And then he will give me an answer. And then sometimes not always direct answer, but it's always philosopher in a way, like kind of like, okay, I have to marinate on that. And then a couple of days later, I come back to, hey, Paul, I know what you mean now. I know what you mean. And he's like, exactly. And then also, you know, I appreciate things like that. So it really kind of remind me of my stepdad in the sense, like all the things he told me, I never listened. So this is my chance, you know, to soak it up as much as I can from this man. And that's why, you know, I'm happy. So, yeah.
And this is kind of unrelated, but
Yeah.
do you practice cooking at home with your girlfriend?
At home, yes. Funny thing, because the way I got my girlfriend is I created an 8-course meal for her. So that's how I lure her in. I actually went to go to Chinatown, went to other places, buy the ingredients. And then I create this menu of emoji because, you know, the new trend. So she doesn't really know what she's eating, but she knows like I have a shrimp, I have a dragon fruit, you know, this kind of emoji as the course menu. And then she would look at it like, she's like, it's a dragon. So what is a dragon? I was like, well, I got dragon fruit here. It's a dessert. So I was like, oh, cool, you know. So I kind of use creativity, a lot of work, and eventually I lure her in. No, not so much of cooking because she does most of the cooking for me. And then I tell her, you make anything for me, I eat. Because at the end of the day, I'm kind of exhausted. One day I was joking, say, if you make me ketchup and spaghetti, I eat it. I come home, spaghetti and ketchup. I was like, oh my God, this is, and I eat it. I was like, oh, it's actually pretty good, you know, because my mom was a horrible cook. She will always cook batches. Like I remember we would eat a turkey all the way through next year around like September because we buy a huge turkey. She would like, you know, she does all these things with the turkey and then she will freeze it and we eat it throughout the months. And then my stepdad always jokes, says, hey, mama, you're making enough food for the whole army, but it's only 3 of us, you know, what are you doing? But my mom's always busy. So, you know, anyways, yeah.
Okay. I think we better take some time for questions.
Sure.
Did
Yeah.
you
What
have
what
any-
what
Did
what are
you
your
think of anything that you missed saying?
No.
No? Okay. You can get them
oh,
afterwards if
yeah.
you do.
Yeah, you know, it is funny. John mentioned the fact that I try to impart a lot of philosophy in what we do because there are reasons why we still study philosophers now, because they were pretty smart and they distilled these concepts into very basic things that allowed us to untangle complicated things. And one of not a philosopher, but a very smart man was George S. Patton. And he had a philosophy of warfare that is very practical to what we do in the kitchen. And that is to not tell people how to do something, tell them what needs to be done and let them come up with the solutions themselves, because they will own the solution and it will probably be something you didn't even think of, because the ones that are actually doing the job really have some interesting ways of making things work. It doesn't work for everything, but it does work for a lot of things. Guiding people into into a solution that's of their own making means that that solution is going to be more permanent, not something they're not doing it just because I said. They're doing it because they own it. And the other thing I found interesting, John mentioned how smart his step-parent or his stepdad was after he moved out. I too, hard to believe, was that smart mouth, know-it-all kid at home. And I cannot tell you how many times I had to pinch myself and say, man, dad was really smart, or mom really knew what she was talking about. But I never said that when I lived at home. It wasn't until I moved out. And that's when they became so smart. I expect the same thing of my kids. I think that they probably do the same thing, because, you know, when my kids were growing up, they probably didn't like all the decisions I made. But then in retrospect, they've told me time and time again, wow, Dad, you really knew what you were talking about. And they call me all the time looking for advice. And it's like, but you never asked for advice when you were at home. Why is that? Well, Dad, you know. And I went, yeah, okay, I know. I definitely know.
Okay, how about some questions?
So what questions might you all have? Anyone? I'll bring this one here. We'll bring one down to you.
John, this is a question for you. I heard from a couple of the men who were at the men's lunch that you said you had learned to do many different cuisines, but you were still struggling or trying to learn Chinese. So how can that be?
The reason being is, like when I said, when I graduated culinary school, it's a French school, and then I graduated. I went to cruise line because they pay me while I work for my internship, and then I was down in the basement, like I can hear the wave crashing against the side of the ship. That's why I cut all the vegetables. One day the head chef, the executive chef never comes down to the dungeon. You're surprised every time he comes down to the dungeon, something is bad happens. So he comes down, and then he like look around. He look at me. He's like, "You come with me." So he grabbed me, he gave me a new coat, brand new coat. And then I was like, wow, this is nice. Everything's clean. He's like, okay, stand behind this sushi bar. I'm like, what? I don't know anything about sushi. He's like, no, we need an Asian guy stand here. Just stand here. And then that way make things look legit. I was like, okay. So since I'm standing there, so I started learning about Japanese food, and then upon left the cruise line, and then I went to Guam and other places. I started learning about Italian cuisine, and then a little bit more French. I worked for Hyatt, Hilton as well. So I did work for a Chinese restaurant once. I was the dishwasher. I worked from 12 o'clock till 12 o'clock. And then it was a buffet. I got paid $50. That's it. And I was like, no, this is not a life for me. So, and then, but nowadays we have, Amazon. So I'm starting to buy some, Chinese cooking books. And then, but sometimes always the insecurity. I'm Chinese, and I'm making this food, especially to Asian people, is very scary for me because I don't necessarily know what I'm eating, but the person knows. So they're gonna call me out. So that's something that insecure of me for doing it. But that's something I'm still trying to work on. So, yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. So, I have some ideas coming up, and then so definitely. So the thing about Chinese food is sometimes I feel it's unhealthy. It's a lot of grease, and then so I'm trying to come up with an idea of how to make it healthier. And then how to incorporate, because the way I learned about Japanese cuisine is everything's little small bites, and then everything is very balanced with flavor. After you eat every little bites, you're full. But the Chinese food is like family style, and then you eat together. So sometimes I kind of, so that's my next challenge, to balance that and to bring it to you guys in a healthier way. So yeah, so definitely it's something I'm working on. Thank you for your patience. Thank you. I'm 39, I think. Yeah, I don't really track my age. I kind of stopped tracking my age, and but my mom according to my mom says I'm 39. Like I said earlier, she's like, you're halfway to death. What are you gonna do for the rest of half your life, John? This is what you're gonna do. So, yeah.
Any other questions?
So John, you speak English really, really well. Do you speak other languages?
Yes, I do. I speak. It's funny because when I come to America in '96, I live in San Rafael. San Rafael, San Anselmo, Fairfax, in those areas predominantly is all Caucasian. I did not make my first Chinese friend until I was 31. I moved to New York. So long story short, my Chinese is coming back. I know how to speak it, but I do not know how to write it. I do not know how to read it. Sometimes my speaking is going down because I have no one to practice with. It's funny thing when I go to the Chinese restaurant, they start speaking Chinese to me. I'm like, I don't know, medium. They're like Chinese. I'm like, I don't know. Like, you know, they look at me like, what's wrong with you? Like, but yeah, my Chinese started going down, and then, but my mom every time we talk, she always speaks Chinese with me. But when I try to speak English with her, she's like, no, Chinese. And then she would send me emails in Chinese. I'm like, Mom, I cannot read this. She's like, try to read it. And then she always like, anytime like something I needed from her, you know, like Paul said, you know, hey mom, what is it now? How much? And then she always give me that thing like, you must learn Chinese. She will give me a, you know, paragraph for me to translate. Something I gotta do for her. It was just Chinese, and then she will help me. So yeah.
Anyone?
Yes, Mandarin. Yeah.
Thanks. Is there any chance in the future that the entrees, we could order half entrees? Because sometimes it's just too much to eat.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's something I'm still working on with the.
Are you? Okay.
With the dietitian on the portion serving. Yeah. I mean, when I talk to the cooks, when I talk to the cooks about the portion size, everybody say the same thing. You guys pay the money. We want to feed you guys. That's why, like, everyone's like, that's too small. That's not enough for what they pay for. But I'm like, guys, it's too much food. They don't want to waste food. So, yeah. Oh, sorry. I think she's next.
Just a quickie, do either of you have hobbies that you do after work that you enjoy doing?
Yeah, not cooking is one for me. I'm an avid outdoorsman. I love mountain biking, hiking in the mountains. I'm kind of a beach person. I told you I grew up on the beach. The beach is kind of my happy place. It's where when I feel the most stressed, I find myself going to Santa Cruz and getting tacos and going sitting on the beach and just listening to the water. You know, a lot of what we do in the kitchen, like I said, is fire and knives. It's a very high stress environment. We are in constant motion. So on my days off, there's a lot of no motion. I like to read. I'm currently reading a book called Work Clean. It's a book about why chefs think the way they do and how that translates to the business world. This idea of mise en place and organization, and from kitchens to offices, and how does that translate? It's a real challenge turning down the RPMs in my mind, the revolutions per minute in my mind when we finish a day. But it's vital. It's vital to do that, and having those breaks and those diversions are really important. I love biking. I have a stationary bike in my garage. When the weather's not right, I'll jump on that. And it's got a video screen that takes me to Bermuda or Fiji or any of these other places. And it's not really the same, but it's pretty close. And yeah, so I find a way to kind of dial down the frenetic results of my day. But it's also a great thing to do for my partner because nobody wants. She works from home all the time, so she works from home, so she doesn't get outside the house very much except to take Dottie, our dog, for a walk. So when I come home, what she wants to do is, how was your day? How'd you go today? What did you do today? How was your day today? And what I want to do is I want to turn it off. And so we found a middle ground on all that. but yeah, it is important. It is important. And I do find the diversions and the hobbies. I don't know, John, do you have kind of a similar
Yeah.
scenario when you get home?
No, definitely. When I get home, my girlfriend's, same thing. And then I just want to be, shut it down for a while, just kind of let me think, also that's the thing, like, once again, it's Paul again, he's a great mentor. When I first started here, I was stressing out, all this stuff. I feel like overwhelmed, and then it's kind of funny. One day, I was running around the kitchen. We're super busy. We're behind. He comes in. He's like, "Hey, have you met my dog?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "What? You know how busy we are?" Like, "Hey, like, come on, drop what you're doing. Come outside. I want you to meet my dog." I'm like, "What's wrong with this guy?" Like, I'm busy. He's like, no, come on. So he dragged me outside, and then he's like, "Hey, this is my dog, blah, blah, blah." We started talking. That's when he introduced me. He said, "Hey, you should go on a hike. Have you tried going on a hike?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Try it. Try go to the beach. Try it." Just like he said. And those advice I took in, and then I started going to hike in the back of Los Gatos, just 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then I started realize my mind get eased into it, and I started realize, oh, what is the weather feels like? Oh, maybe we should move the menu towards the winter. Maybe we should move the menu towards the spring. What's the color looking around? Oh, it's all yellow. Maybe that translates to the plating, should make everything to able to reference to the outside world. So like back to what I said, I'm very grateful to have him. So yeah, he's one kind of go take a break. Even though he knows I was behind, he knows I'm into trouble. He's like, go take a break. So yeah.
John, there's a question over here.
Oh, okay, sorry.
You were talking about in the environment and taking care of our world and recycling, et cetera. Do you compost the wasted food? Because, we can do it here ourselves because we
Sure.
do have the compost bins.
We, the city of Los Gatos has some very tight requirements of composting in a commercial setting because of the potential to attract insects and vermin and that sort of stuff. So we do have composting bin, a compost receptacle in our behind the kitchen,
Mhm.
and it's picked up daily. But we don't actually compost and make compost here. It's picked up
Oh, it's taken away.
by Earth Cycle, and they take it to their facility and they put it through the composting process, and then it's given out to organic farms and that sort of stuff. So part of our 2.5-3% waste quantity, it's based in those products. So we don't take necessarily cooked food. Typically that's higher in fat and than the inorganic materials that go into food production. Even though we're no canola oil, we're all olive oil and butter now. We can't really take like leftover macaroni and cheese as an example and put that in compost, but we do take fruit peelings and vegetable peelings and eggshells and coffee grounds and that kind of stuff. All that goes into our composting systems. Not the stuff that comes back from the tables. No, we don't compost that material.
So it's mainly what you use preparing the food.
Precisely,
Right.
yeah.
How many staff work in the kitchen? How many people?
Total in the dining services department, I have 50, and then there are 6 managers that are furnished by Morrison, me being one of them.
The ones that work in the kitchen, not the servers.
Actually, it's all the department is dining services. Kitchen, I think is we have 9, 5 dishwashers, round numbers about 15. There's about 15 in front of the house, and about the same up on tray line, taking care of the therapeutic floors.
Okay.
Yeah, but 50 altogether.
Do you at all evaluate what comes back to see, a particular meal that you're serving, you're getting a lot back because people did not just enjoy it? Do you take that into account?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the reasons I go into the dining room, although I love all of you, is really not to visit with you. It's to see what's on your plates. It's kind of sneaky, but it's kind of how I work. We also have regular conversations with the staff about what perceptions are and what kind of things are working and what kind of things are not working. An example of that is it was brought to my attention that we were running a little heavy in acorn squash. So we've kind of backed off of that just a little bit. Broccoli has been a little too prevalent. So we're kind of backing off of that a little bit as well. But it's interesting. It's interesting. this idea that too much of anything is a bad thing. One of the Harvard Medical Association did a study on foods to extend your life. And they found that cruciferous vegetables, broccoli included, there's not a lot of downside to consuming large quantities of things in the cruciferous vegetable family. Kale is probably the only exception to that. If you're on certain heart medications, too much kale can be a problem for a variety of reasons. But broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbages, collards, mustard greens, things like that really have an enormous health benefits to our body. The other one was green tea. I don't know if anybody drinks green tea, but green tea, there's no downside to how much green tea you can consume and get the benefit from. So I'm a huge fan of green tea as well. But yes, if I can make a short answer out of a long answer, we do actually. We are constantly in evaluation of what's working, what's not working. And every week when we have our manager meeting, we're looking at next week and the week after's menu to kind of do that deep analysis of what's working, what's not working. And that's why you'll see some of those things drop off without explanation and something else to replace it. And then once we do those changes, then we just listen. We listen and we observe and see what's working.
Yeah.
How can you disguise broccoli? My favorite way to disguise broccoli is with a copious quantity of cheese, but that's not always the healthiest way to do it. But no, there are a number of great seasoning. Lemon and broccoli are really great combinations together, and the reason for that has to do with we talked about this in Teaching Kitchen the other day. This concept called the psychology of taste. And it's the idea that everything within our taste buds requires balance. It's sweet, sour, bitter, and salty. Those are really the four primaries that we taste on our tongue. Umami is kind of a combination of the sour, salty, and sweet, but it's a kind of a savory flavor. So, but it's termed the fifth taste. But if we have too much of one thing and not enough of the others, things taste out of balance and they don't taste good. So with broccoli is kind of a bitter vegetable. So you need a little bit of salt. Ironically, you need a little bit of something salty in there. You can do that by adding other flavors to it, but also acid is something that helps to counteract the effect of bitterness. So by inserting a little bit of lemon juice into that cooking process, you wind up having something that's not as bitter and makes it more palatable. The other important thing about vegetables in general is the reason we cook vegetables is so we can more easily digest them. This is something that we've figured out that, the transition from Homo erectus to Homo sapien was the invention of fire. When we created fire, that's when we really had a huge evolutionary leap in our body structure. And our digestive systems went from being very large to being much smaller. Hard to believe that my digestive system was larger. It's about as big as I want it now anyway. But the point is that when we did that, we discovered that cooking food made it more digestible and made it not so, it didn't irritate us as much. Raw broccoli has a higher irritation factor than does cooked broccoli, and cauliflower and cabbage and all those others as well. So by cooking it, we actually made it more digestible and more palatable.
I wanted to thank you, as long as I have the microphone, for decaf green tea.
Oh, sure, of
Yeah.
course. Of course, my
And
pleasure.
I was wondering, since you're getting Mrs. Dash, could they be on the table instead
Yeah.
of the salt shaker?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
with the salt shaker, because some
Right.
people still use salt.
There is a big salt lobby that I would have flaming torches and pitchforks at my door if I took away salt shakers. So that's not going to happen. But I will say this, that the Mrs. Dash at the table is something we're sourcing the actual shakers to go on the tables. But yeah, more to come on that.
I'd like to ask, I like broccoli stalks. I don't like the heads. But nowadays, I know they package the heads and kind of get rid of the stalk. Is there some way where we could keep the stalks and cook them, but not cook them to death, just crispy kind of? And that's my big complaint about the vegetables here.
You can have mine My broccoli stalks.
but there aren't very many.
I know.
But and one time my husband was helping with a Japanese restaurant and he tempura fried the stalks and they were so good. I wish we could have some stock because we have heads and no stock.
Is anyone else who has a question other than about our food here? Okay. If anyone
Yeah,
has to
on-
leave, feel free.
Yeah, on the computer, we're able to find the nutrition of the food, which I check on carefully. These last couple weeks, we haven't had it. Could we have a way of making sure that the dietitian does put the information in?
Yeah, I apologize for that. If you stay behind for just a few minutes, I can actually get you paper copies of that information and get them to you. And I'll circle back and make sure that we're being more diligent about putting that information up online. I do apologize for that. Sometimes if we don't name the file correctly, it doesn't post up to Cubigo. But does everybody know where my door is? I think most everybody knows where my door is. You can always just come on down the hall. If you know where maintenance is, you just veer a little bit to the right, and there I am. But I'll get you a copy of that before we leave today, if that works for you. Sorry about that. I did that one time with John. No, she bless her heart. She's a cattle dog, which means she's pretty high energy. But if I do bring her, I'll bring her on the weekend. Just kind of walk her through the place. She is as sweet as the day is long. She's my little girl. She's about 12 years old now, so she's we just had to put her brother, her stepbrother down at 13. It's funny when you have to put a dog down, you have to recognize that's why we outlive our pets. We're supposed to outlive our pets so that we can have more of them. So we'll circle back around, and another dog may take his place one day. They actually rescued me. I didn't rescue them. They rescued me, as is the case, I think, with most rescue animals.
Go ahead.
Sure.
How much of a difference is your diet between the main dining room population versus assisted living? Not the health department, assisted living.
As far as variety is concerned, it's almost identical.
Really?
Yeah, it's almost identical. There are the entrees that we serve in assisted living are the same entrees we serve in the independent living dining room. We do have a couple of specials that don't fit into the nutritionals necessarily. So we don't actively offer those up in assisted living. That doesn't mean we can't do it. That doesn't mean we can't put it there, but we just don't advertise it necessarily. But yeah, it's about, I would say 85 to 90% identical.
Thank you.
I have a friend coming who's strict vegetarian for dinner tomorrow.
John and I were recently just talking about coming up with specials. And one of the ways we do that is by exercising a process called substitution. And St. Patty's Day was coming, and I knew that we had to have corned beef and cabbage. And apparently everybody responded to that, because the first night we sold, I don't know, 40 or 50 pounds of corned beef. It was crazy. It was amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. And now it's kind of going back the other direction. But we needed a vegetarian special as well. So I was looking at St. Patty's Day traditional dishes, and shepherd's pie came up, and I thought, vegetarian shepherd's pie. How do we do? Lentils. Ah, there we go. So we made a lentil stew underneath that call cannon topping of mashed potato and cabbage and such. So it became a natural match. We're pretty creative when it comes to our we can make it available, sure, because it's the lunch special that's running through the week. So yeah, we can make that available for dinner, sure, for your guest, of course. Yeah, I'm not going to advertise that. That would just throw a wrench in the kitchen operations. But yeah, we can certainly make that happen. John, you got that?
Yes, copy.
Yeah.
Got
Okay.
it. Tomorrow night.
See, that's how that works. Right? Yeah. Anyone else?
Is there some way that we can put up allergies and diet restrictions so that, we have to pick it according to what's on the menu? But like, I can't have shrimp. And so when there's a choice, it's usually shrimp and something else. I have to have that something else.
Right. Typically, one of the benefits of being here is that we all know you. We know that Miss Oliphant can't eat mushrooms. We know that you can't eat shrimp. We know this about you all, and that's really one of the benefits of having the relationship with you is that we know you. So anytime you come in, we know that we're on alert to make sure that no shrimp gets anywhere near you, and that no mushrooms get anywhere near Miss Oliphant. But as far as like gluten intolerance and things that are vegan and things that are vegetarian, our iconography on the menus is pretty consistent. It may not be as thorough as maybe it once was. I can circle back and take a look at that and make sure that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we're making people aware of ingredients and content. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's crustaceans and everything. Yeah. So we're getting the hook. So I guess we have another event coming in. So, but thanks so much for all of your questions, and thanks so much for being here. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.